Hey everybody, welcome to another top 5 countdown video. I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 military surplus rifles that have skyrocketed drastically in price in the past 10 years, more so than others. This is all going to be my opinion based on observations, and these numbers aren't going to be exact, but they're going to be approximate. I'll just kind of let you know what I'm basing my numbers off of. For those of you that have been collecting for more than 10 years, I think you'll tend to agree with me on these numbers. So, all that being said, we're going to start the list at number 5 with the SMLE, or Short Magazine Lee Enfield, number 1 Mark III, or number 1 Mark III Star, any of the variants of the number 1 Mark III. So at the beginning of the 2010s, we'll just say, or in 2010, we'll start a reference point at. These were pretty readily available, they're at basically every gun shop in the United States. You'd find either one of these or number 4, but these were just as common. And these were going for between $175 and $250, depending on if they were Australian, what kind of shape they were in, all that stuff. Now, in 2020, these things are going for at least $500 for a World War I dated example. Later dated ones are going for around the same price, but they're more down at the 400 range. But if you want to get a World War I dated between 1914, or basically anything before 1918, it's going to run you at least $500. You're looking more towards 6 or 7 if it's in good shape. Why is this? Well, coincidentally, when Battlefield 1 came out, the price started to skyrocket and these things became really hard to find. Not blaming the game, just saying it was around the same time, shortly thereafter, that the game was released, that these things became really expensive and really hard to find. Or not really hard to find, but a lot harder than they were in the past. So this is number 5 on our list. Number 4 on our list is going to be the French Moss M1949-56 rifle in 7.5 by 54 French. I can't explain this one. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure it's just a big supply and demand issue. So these things used to retail for between $350 and $500 with all the accessories and all that stuff. Just even a few years ago, that wasn't really that long ago, and they sat at the same price for many years. And I don't know what happened, but in the recent years, these became popular, and now they're really hard to find, and they're about $800-900 minimum if you can find one. And I don't know how to explain this one. They're great rifles. I like the rifle. It's a really unique, fun to shoot, kind of odd looking, like most French firearms. Interesting firearm. It's simple. It works. It's in a pretty powerful caliber, and it's nice. But again, even just about 5 years ago, nobody really wanted these except for people like myself who were nerds and liked French firearms for being weird and kind of out there, and also really fun and accurate. So yeah, this is now retailing, we're just going to say $1,000 in 2020 because that's what I've been seeing pretty consistently, and people think they're getting a deal when they're paying $800 to $900. So these have more than doubled, just like the SMLEs, but the dollar amount is actually bigger. So I'm just very glad I got this one. If you haven't seen the video on why I like this particular rifle, and it's very special to me, you should go back and check out my firearm collecting series and check out what goes around comes around, or what comes around goes around, something like that. I don't remember what it's called, but this one's pretty near and dear to me. Anyway, got off on a tangent there. The Moss 4956 is going to be number 4 on our list. Number 3 on our list is one you probably wouldn't expect to have increased in price so drastically, but they became extremely popular. It's going to be the Martini Henry rifle. Any model, really. This is a Mark II. I forgot which sub-model it is. It's got the updated bayonet lug and all that stuff. Anyway, I'll be doing a video on this soon enough. But anyway, so these Martini Henrys, I do remember these back in the day because IMA's basically got the monopoly on these things after they bought out the Nepal cache 15, 20 years ago. I don't remember when it was. But yeah, these things were between $300 and $500 depending on the model, and they came with a bayonet and all that stuff. For a restored condition one where they, it wasn't just like they found them, it was like you see right in front of you, for a nice cleaned model. And now these things are going for $1,000 minimum for a cleaned example. Even the dirty ones are $600, $700, $800. Now, I don't know if that's because they got more popular and the supply is decreasing, or if it's just a business making money. Either way, I don't really see a reason for that because these are so expensive to shoot and they're kind of such an oddity and a really, really niche thing. It's a cool part of British history and world history for that matter, but do I think they're worth that $1,000, $1,200? I don't know. I guess it's personal preference. I think they're more of a $500 or $600 rifle tops, like in clean condition. But that's my opinion. But these things really seem to jump, and I don't think a lot of people really noticed that because nobody really noticed these firearms before the past couple years when word got around that they're pretty popular and they're pretty fun to shoot. So yeah, again, I'll be making a video on this soon enough. But yeah, here's one that you might take into consideration now and be like, oh yeah, you haven't really thought about them in the past few years. So yeah, that'll be our number 3 choice. Number 2 on our list, solidly placed, is the good old Goo 98, or Gevery 98. I'm making a joke for those of you who take life very seriously. Anyway, so yeah, the Gevery Model 98 has increased significantly, and they've gotten pretty hard to find nowadays. Again, this is the same thing that happened with the SMLE. And shortly after Battlefield 1 came out, these started really increasing in price. Again, could be a total coincidence, could be the centennial of the First World War that got these popular. But yeah, these things, back in 2010, I remember seeing these were going for $250 to $300 tops, like for a really nice one. And I mean, I scored this thing for dirt cheap, even cheaper than they were going right, at that point. And it was like, okay, well, neat. It's a nice rifle. It's a cool piece of history. The Turkish ones were a lot cheaper than the non-Turkish ones even. They were, 150 to 175, $200 tops for a Turkish one. And yeah, then after Battlefield 1, I mean, they slowly started creeping up to, I think about in 2014, they were going for 4 to 5. So it was on its way up anyway. And then after Battlefield 1 came out, or, a couple years ago, we'll just say, so, piss off all the little fanboys that are, it's the reason, supply and demand. I'm aware. That's what I just said. After that happened, these things are now going for $1,000 to $2,000, but mostly between $1,000 and $1,500. I have seen some crazy auctions on these, though, for a decent example. Most of these are floating around $1,000 for a standard Gevery 98, nothing special about it, average condition like the one you see in front of you. I mean, $1,000, that's pretty insane for a bolt-action rifle that, they made several million of. Anyway, that's my opinion, but that's what they're going for nowadays in 2020. Now, we'll move on. Before we get to our number 1 choice, I want to do an honorable mention, the German KAR-98K. So the reason this one actually didn't make the list, it would be number 6, to be honest with you, but it didn't quite make the top 5 list because these were already all over the place as far as value is concerned back in 2010. I remember, so I mean, if you want to just use the basic models like I have a typical bolt mismatch, refurbished in 1942 rifle that was imported by Century probably 20, 30 years ago. Nothing special at all, just a good example of a nice shooting rifle and just an example of a World War II rifle. And these were also sent all over the world. Now, even back then, an all-matching, K98 would bring you $1,500 to $2,000. What I'm noticing now is like a Russian captured one, which this one is not, but a Russian captured one or a bolt mismatch like this are bringing hefty premiums. These things, so I paid, I think, $250 for this thing in 2010, which was pretty standard for a K98. I know it was up from the 90s, but still not terrible. And I thought that was a good deal because it's a K98 and whatever, $250. Now a bolt mismatch is going to run at least $5. But again, they were expensive before, depending on who you got them from. If you got lucky at a gun shop and somebody didn't know how to use the internet and they were selling it for, whatever. But the K98, technically, I just didn't want to get into the complications of that. That's why I would have put that at number 6, so it's an honorable mention for the top 5 list. Now we'll move on to our number 1 choice. And here's our number 1 choice. If you were late to the game, almost like I was, or, I was almost late to the game. I got in at the very end of the last couple years, and I'm talking just a couple years of good collecting. You would notice that these things, the French model 1886/93 Lebel rifle, chambered in 8mm 8x50 or 8x51 rimmed, these things have become unobtainium in the US. And if you can find them, they're going for between $1,500 and $2,000. Now, just a few years ago, this was a $500 to $600 rifle in good working condition like this. The ones that are Afghan bringbacks brought a little bit less because they were a little bit more shady. The quality wasn't as good. They were used and abused. But one in this kind of shape that you're seeing in front of you that's used but not totally screwed is, about a $500, maybe $600 rifle. And if you wanted to get one, they were around. They were on Gunbroker, they were on gun boards. They were, they weren't technically surplus at that point, but they were secondary market. Now, also, around the same time that Battlefield 1 came out, which was also, to be fair again, around the time of the World War I centennial, these things disappeared off the market. They dried up completely and they got really expensive. Now, I understand why people would want these. They were used for 50 years, 50 plus years in a lot of places. They went through 2 world wars, the 1911 crowd, 2 world wars. They were really a symbol of the French, I guess, ingenuity of the late 19th century, being the first smokeless powder rifle ever adopted by a nation's military. And yeah, it's got a lot of cool history to it. It's a really weird, wonky gun, which I'm going to have to make a more recent shooting video on. They're so fun to shoot. Really accurate, this one is. Anyway, these things have become insanely expensive. And this is probably the one that's increased the most. And I can more or less understand why this one would be that expensive. I just don't think it should be that expensive, but I guess it is what it is. There's not a lot of these floating around because a lot of these were actually cut down. A lot of these were sent all over the world and used. Maybe there's a huge cache of these somewhere in, Africa or Asia or something like that, the Middle East. But until then, we're stuck paying those prices. I wanted to get another one of these just to have like a nicer one because this is my shooter. But yeah, I'm definitely not going to be paying that. Because mine's definitely got its issues, so it's not perfect at all, and that's why I got it for a decent deal back a few years ago. But man, have these things shot up in price. So there's my top 5 list of military surplus rifles that have appreciated insanely in the past 10 years. I'll probably make a video on military surplus rifles that have remained relatively the same through all the I guess crises, we'll say. They're actually artificially created by the gun community, but hey. But yeah, I'll probably make a video on military surplus firearms that are generally the same price they were even 10 years ago, which will be fun. But then, then all the people yelling at me about, oh, you're going to increase the price of them because people are going to know about them. Well, they already know about them. If you don't know about them yet and you're watching my video, I guess it is what it is. Doesn't mean you're going to go out and, buy them, but I just wanted to bring awareness to this. So let me know what you think. If you agree, that's cool. If you don't, I don't care. This is my list. This is my personal list. This isn't an end-all, be-all factual video. It's just kind of a fun video of what I've observed. Some guns that have really just skyrocketed fast. Like not just keeping up with the normal, like, okay, it's $50 more this year than it was on average last year. That's normal. But these things have, if you made a graph, it would be going, flat, 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 boom. And even in the past like 3 to 5 years. So yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. A lot of you guys like these top 5s and been requesting them, and I haven't put one out in a while, so here we go. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and also consider becoming a supporter on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. You can do that. The link to Patreon is in the description. You can become a channel member by hitting join right underneath this video. If you do $5 a month or more on either platform of support, you get access to my Discord server, which is pretty fun. A lot of cool information is exchanged there. You guys get a lot of sneak peeks at upcoming content and other cool things, and it's pretty fun. We go on voice chat once in a while, and I got time to do that, and yeah, it's pretty fun. Anyway, it helps support like ballistic test videos, shooting videos, stuff like that. Things that are expensive that I normally wouldn't be able to fund out of pocket. Crowdfunding really helps me be able to do those videos. Recently, we've got some cool stuff coming up because of crowdfunding. So anyway, if you can't support the channel financially, that's totally fine. I totally get that. Not a problem. I just do appreciate you watching. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.